I'm Linda Elsegood, founder of the LDN Research Trust. It has been my honour to interview LDN researchers, prescribers, pharmacists and patients from around the world for many conditions. Thank you for joining us.
I'd like to introduce Rose from the United States. Rose is going to tell us her daughter Layla's story, and Layla has Crohn. Thank you for joining me, Rose.
You're welcome.
Could you
I'm
tell
glad
us?
to be here.
Thank you. Could you tell us when Layla first got sick?
Well, I noticed that something was wrong with her on May 9th of 2012. And even before that, I was kind of concerned about her, not in a serious way, but she was becoming a young lady. She had started her menstrual cycle at 10. And so I noticed that she was getting a little bit thinner. And, you know, friends and family would say, oh, she's developing. Her body shape is going to change. She's going to lose the body fat. She'll be fine. So that was, right before May. And then on May 9th, for some reason, it was my birthday, I'll never forget it, I asked her to lift her shirt while she was getting ready for school and show me her back. And I saw her rib cage, May 9th, 2012, and I was frantic. Mm-hmm. So I took her to school and I immediately called the doctor. I said, we have to be seen today. There's something seriously wrong with my daughter. So we saw the doctor that very day. They got us in that day. The nurse got me in and she saw a wonderful doctor and he immediately started a whole bunch of tests on her. And at first they thought, oh, maybe it's just anorexia. You know, maybe she's doing this. I said, no, my daughter doesn't do that. Mm-hmm. So anyway, from that point, we finally got to a GI doctor only by my insistence that my insurance company appointed someone that could see her in August. Well, this was May 9th, and they said, we can see her in August. I said, no, that's too long. She'll be emaciated. Mm-hmm. Because by the time we got to the doctor, her normal weight was about 125. She weighed 82 pounds.
Wow.
So you can imagine my shock and my guilt and I was just ashamed that I didn't notice at 82 pounds, that far down that something was wrong, except for that very day. I said, I got to do something. Mm-hmm. So after all the doctors, they sent us through all kinds of consults, an allergy specialist down in Colorado Springs by the name of Dr. Storms. He's an expert here. He has clinics that do research, and they did her celiac test, and we were sent to a counselor to make sure she wasn't mentally ill, like doing anorexia and bulimia. And she wasn't. She's perfectly healthy in that regard. And before she got sick, she was a husky, well-developed 10-year-old, 11-year-old who had lots of muscle tone, and she was a soccer player ever since she was 4 years old. So at 11 years old, she was a husky, beautiful, just, sturdy, stout little girl. Mm-hmm. And she was strong. And so at 82 pounds, she was really sick with something. So finally, on June 29th of 2012, after I insisted that I find my own GI doctor, I found John Yazdi, and he brought her in as soon as he could. And on June 29th, she went for a colonoscopy and an endoscopy, and they found Crohn's. Mm-hmm. And it was our worst, we had our head down. We didn't want to hear anything bad. We just wanted to hear, it was just a fluke and she'll be fine and, whatever. But he found Crohn's, and then that's the story where it starts from there, because he immediately put her on Remicade. First I think he put her on prednisone, and then, to get her a little bit well. And then put her on a Remicade infusion treatment, which we did on a regular schedule. I think it was every 2 months for about a year and a half. And she was doing really well. I mean, her inflammation rates were still high, but she wasn't as sick as she was before. And she started to gain weight. And, you may have heard that they say that Remicade, you become immune to it. And she didn't have any allergic reactions, but she eventually grew to where she just couldn't. It didn't do any good. Her inflammation rates were still really high, and she just wasn't as well as he would hope. And so he would ask us, well, our next step will be those other meds like Azicol and the anti-inflammatories that everybody else takes. And I said, well, you've forgotten that she's allergic to NSAIDs. She can't take any anti-inflammatories. And so he made us go back to the allergy doctor and retest to make sure that she was allergic, because we already knew, but we went and we made sure that she's allergic to Motrin and Advil and, all the anti-inflammatories. She gets an itchy throat and swollen, itchy ears and itchy throat and itchy tongue, and they don't let it go any further to see what else will happen. They just give her the Benadryl and say, okay, she's allergic. So anyway, so she was never able to take the standard drugs that I've always heard people taking, including my sister-in-law, who I think she takes Azicol, I'm not sure, but she's 60-something. And so I said, okay, we can't do that regimen. We can't do that treatment. And Remicade, we could keep trying, but, like give it a break and then go back on it. And so he asked if she would be willing to try a trial study out of the Children's Hospital of Denver, which may have originated in the United Kingdom, but it was the enteral nutrition by drinking Ensure. So she immediately stood up for the challenge and said, I'm doing it, because her only other option was Humira or try Remicade again or go into one of those meds that she's allergic to. And so she immediately told Dr. Yazdi, I will do the liquid diet. He said, we have to start, you can pick a date, but when you do it, you can't quit. You've got to do it for 60 days straight, and we'll see how well you get, And so before she got on it, we watched videos. We went to a surgeon to see if she would rather have the tube in her stomach or if she'd rather do the nose method. I don't even know the names, the official medical names, but either nose or a tube in her stomach. And after she saw the surgeon for the tube, she said, absolutely not. I'm going to drink that stuff. Mm-hmm. I said, but you have to drink 6 bottles a day for 60 days. And she said, I'm going to do it. And she did it. And she was what you would call a spokesperson for his other pediatric patients who he was trying to get them to try something new. And even though we never met them and we don't really know, we knew their names, we didn't know their faces, and that's only because they voluntarily called me and I spoke to them about Layla's success with the Ensure. Mm-hmm. And so she drank broth and liquid, or Ensure and broth and organic teas for 60 days, didn't eat a thing, and got well, quote unquote. All her inflammation rates dropped. They didn't normalize, but everything got better. Her bowel movements were better, just everything was wonderful. And then something happened in December of 2013. I believe it was on the 5th of December, close to that date, maybe the 1st, but it lasted for, she ended up in the hospital. She had a bleed out. She woke up one morning and told me that she had almost fainted, and she dropped to her knees to make sure she didn't fall. And then she came to the stairway and she said, Mom, there's something wrong. And then I said, well, what's wrong? She said, I don't know, but I almost fainted. I said, well, did you already go to the bathroom? She said, no. And she went to the bathroom and it was a toilet bowl full of blood. So she bled out. Mm-hmm. I called the doctor. He told me to rush her to the Memorial Hospital for Children. I did that. They did all kinds of scopes on her and a nuclear medicine scope where they put the dye in her and tried to find the source of the bleed. Never found it. She ended up being admitted for 5 days while they did a colonoscopy and couldn't find anything. And by then she had stopped. And then he decided to do prednisone and Remicade one more time to make absolutely sure she was well. All this time, she's still on the liquid diet. She improved, obviously. Prednisone gets you well for a short period. It gets you well pretty fast. And he did that, and then we did a Remicade infusion. And then she got right back to, by then we were in 2014 probably, and then she, her inflammation rates were going up and up and up and up. So by May of 2014, we decided to try medical marijuana, the high CBDs, the cannabidiol. And so I took her to a medical marijuana doctor, and she evaluated her records and decided, okay, no problem, we'll give you the license and you get to start doing it. And so for a whole year and a half, she's been on CBDs, of just edible CBDs, where she'd chew up a little, it looks like a Tootsie Roll kind of thing, and she would take that morning and night not very high milligrams. I think the highest we got her was maybe 10 milligrams. And it worked. Her rates came down. But then in July of 2015, she went to camp. She went to a Crohn's and colitis camp, and she came home sick. Like literally the day I picked her up, the next day she felt sick. And she lost a whole bunch of weight within a week, about 10 pounds. We didn't know what was wrong with her. We just thought she was having a flare. So I just bumped up the CBDs, trying to get the inflammation down because we were trusting in the CBDs for the medical marijuana. And I thought I got her well enough and I was going to keep her here, but we were going on a trip to see my father for his 95th birthday, and she insisted she was okay to go. So we went. Well, we ended up, long story short, ended up at the Children's Hospital, Cook Children's Hospital in Fort Worth, Texas, because she had a fever for 3 days. I never could break it. She had C. diff. Mm. So very severe. She had lost a lot of weight. I think she weighed 106. I can't remember, but it was pretty bad. Because we were used to seeing her pretty healthy, pretty happy-go-lucky. She's a really, courageous, happy young lady to be going through all this stuff. And so the doctor said, I'm so glad you came in because we caught it in time where we don't have to admit her. We're just going to give her all these medicines, prednisone, et cetera, antibiotic, all these things. And they gave her those meds, and she got well. Well, in the summer of, while she was at camp, I went on a business trip, and I met Noreen Griffith, the immune therapeutics woman. Do you know who I'm speaking of when I say that name? Okay. So I met her in Las Vegas by chance at my business convention for Legal Shield. I'm an agent. And we were there in the same hotel, and we just happened to just kind of, make eye contact, and I asked her a question, and she gave me her business card, and we talked about Crohn's. We talked for about probably 2 hours. And she said, when I got back to Colorado, to please contact Dr. Paul Battle about my daughter. Well, when I got back, I thought, well, I'm not going to do that yet. But then she got sick in Fort Worth because I had been to my business convention for the first week of July. And then the second week we were in Texas, and she was sick as, near death is the way I think of it, because C. diff is so dangerous. And then that made my mind up. I got back to Colorado on the 3rd of August of 2015, and I called Dr. Battle's office and made an appointment. We got in 3 days, I think. We got in on the 8th of August. He started her on LDN, low-dose Naltrexone. And obviously he started that little, at 1.5 milligrams, and then you bump it up slowly over a few months. And during that time that she had started, obviously her labs were okay because of the prednisone from the sickness, from the C. diff, but they weren't perfect. And so on the 2nd of September, we saw Dr. Yazdi, her GI doc, and he did the labs as usual. And she still had, I still think it may have been from the prednisone, but her, in August, after her sickness, before, we saw Dr. Yazdi on August 7th, and we saw Dr. Battle on August 8th. And on August the 7th, her calprotectin was like 535. Well, by September, after being on LDN since August 8th, on September the 2nd, her calprotectin had dropped to 453.
Wow. And
so, we were already thinking, oh, we found something. But then we had to be careful about, the hopeful thinking, because we thought, well, maybe she's still coming off of the prednisone from being so sick. And so I waited till obviously the November labs. I reported everything back to Dr. Battle. Everything that Yazdi does, I reported back to Battle, and he saw the labs from September, and he, reassured us that you just keep going with the LDN, and we'll see what happens. So on November the 6th, we did her next labs, and everything was normal.
Wow.
We were praising God. We were praising LDN. We were praising Dr. Battle. We were just like, oh my God, this is a miracle. And even Dr. Yazdi said, you are a miracle child. And he also said to me, after we told him all this, after we saw him and he read these results to us, her calprotectin was normalized. Her sedimentation rate was 7 normal. Her wait, I'm reading the wrong thing again. That's August. Why did I have 2 calprotectin? Oh, I'm sorry. C-reactive protein was normalized. Fed rate was normalized, and calprotectin was 164. And normal is less than 120. So we were so ecstatic, And at that point, Dr. Yazdi said, I could give her, instead of you going all the way to battle every time for this LDN, I could give her LDN. I said, well, why did you tell us that in the first place? Why did you never tell us? Because we were told by Battle and all these people, I kept asking before we went to the appointment, can we get this from our GI doc? They said, I wouldn't guarantee it. I doubt it very seriously. Mm. They just don't believe in, except for the pharmaceuticals like Humira and all those others. I said, are you sure, He said, yeah, I'm pretty sure you're never going to get it from your GI doc. And then after all these results with Layla, Dr. Yazdi said, I could have given you that. We didn't really say anything to him, but we looked at each other like, really? Shoot. So, we were ecstatic, happy, high fives, all that crazy stuff. And Layla was like, oh my gosh, I'm well, and we already had seen it. She had already been feeling well August, September, October, and here it is, November labs are normal. And so I always go on the LDN.org site and all those blogs and everything. That's how I found your request about testimony. And I said, Layla was wanting to tell kids about her enteral nutrition success. She wanted to be she was like a poster child. That's what they called her at the clinic, the poster child of enteral nutrition, because it worked for her, but we didn't want to keep her on a liquid diet for the rest of her life, and that's why we tried the CBDs. And we're not against medical marijuana or the CBDs either. As a matter of fact, Battle said it wouldn't hurt for her to continue to take CBDs, but she hasn't taken them on a daily basis since she started LDN. We wanted to see if it was LDN alone that was doing this. Mm-hmm. Just like any other thing. You think, well, what was it? The prednisone? Was it the CBDs? What is it? And so she has not really gone back on it unless she has an issue with some other things. And she does have other issues with bones and joints and muscle problems. So I have given her some higher, like an edible that may have some THC in it to get rid of the pain that she might be having in a joint, because she was having shoulder problems, leg problems, back problems, and she's in therapy to try to relieve some of the, she has a knot, he says, like a spasm in her back where there's a knot under her shoulder blade, and she has had to stop doing karate because she's in too much pain. Mm-hmm. So we give her stuff, when she says, hey, I'm having some pain. But those pains are not from her gut. Those pains are not from Crohn's. It's other types of pains, not digestive. And so, like I told you before, when I wrote to you that her next labs would not come out till this week, and they did. We did them early. We did them the first or second week of January, and I've got those back. And once again, in front of me, calprotectin is a little bit higher than it was in November, but it's still really good. It's 176. Her sedimentation rate went a little bit up to 9. It was 7. Now it's 9. And then her C-reactive protein is 2.9. His comments are, no serious inflammation, excellent job, quite good, very, and he's from the United Kingdom too, Dr. Yazdi. So that's it in a nutshell. We are very grateful that I met Noreen. We're grateful that we have Dr. Battle. We're grateful that there's such a thing as LDN that we should have known about already. Mm-hmm. Probably from the very beginning, instead of her going through the suffering that she went through. But she's well adjusted. She's happy. She's very strong, courageous. Just, I don't know. She's well beyond she's mature and well beyond her years. And it's probably a lot to do with the illness.
And what about her weight?
Her weight right now is 120. Mm-hmm. And they say that anything above 116 is good for her height because she stopped growing and she's 5'3.5".
Okay.
So she's pretty stout. She's pretty, solid. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good, isn't it, for somebody with Crohn's to be solid?
It is. Everybody I meet, I tell them about it. And I ask them to please tell Dr. Battle that I referred them, but I'm not sure if that's happening. I mean, everybody I meet, even today, I told 2 more people about it while I was at my doctor. And I didn't even think of telling you this. I don't know why. After I did all the research all the time, and I'm constantly going back to remind myself what I read and read it again, and I have fibromyalgia and arthritis, so I requested LDN from my military treatment facility doctor, and after kind of a mess with it, I finally got it, and TRICARE paid for it. Well, they paid the, whatever, I paid the deductible, but now I'm on LDN for my fibromyalgia, and I feel great after 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I was head to toe miserable and debilitating nausea and debilitating pain, just didn't know what to do with myself, didn't know how to get help, didn't know what was wrong with me. Like, I mean, I've had fibromyalgia at least since I was 40, and I'm 52, and I just never could figure out what can I do? I'm not the type of person to complain. I'm retired military. I'm stronger than this. I can do this. But finally, after reading all the articles about LDN and fibromyalgia, I said, you know what? I'm going to go ask my doctor for this. And if they don't give it to me, I'm going to go to Dr. Battle, because Dr. Battle already told me, come to me and I will help you, And so I just took a chance and asked my doctor, and he gave me a prescription, and I got it compounded at a local pharmacy, and now I'm on it.
Well, Paul has been a speaker at several conferences now, and he's going to be a speaker at the conference in Orlando next month. Okay. And he talks about his son who's got Crohn's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
so,
he told us about him immediately.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a very personal interest in it, but he's amazing. He is so dedicated to LDN. It's really inspiring listening to him talking. So,
well, that part I've never got to see. I've never even been on any one of the web things where I could listen to him talk, even though he's told me about it. And every time I talk to him, he has so much information to give me that, we really don't have time. The last appointment we had was a telephonic one because of a snowstorm. I think that was in November after her first lab results, and he was ecstatic too. He just said, holy cow, she's well. So, yeah, so he's
amazing.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you very much for sharing Layla's story and your story too, and I hope that you continue improving with LDN, and maybe we can do a follow-up next year. That would be very good to see how you're both getting on.
I would be more than willing to do that. And I referred another friend whose daughter has, I might screw this name up, but it's CRPS, I think. It's a nerve pain disorder, and she's only 12.
Goodness.
And so she went to Dr. Battle. She had heard of him, but she didn't trust it. And then when she heard from me, she went. And her daughter is now on LDN, and I think she's improving. So they had tried everything for the past probably 3 years and couldn't get, results. And now she's with Dr. Battle.
Thank you very much for sharing your stories.
You're welcome. You're very welcome.
Do you have LDN experience to share? If so, please email me, linda@ldnrt.org. I look forward to hearing from you.